Hello and welcome to the Kop Council Podcast. It's been, I think, 3 weeks since we've done a podcast, so sorry for that. But everyone that viewed the first podcast, uh, give huge support on it. So thank you very much for the support on the channel lately and on the podcast. I am yet again joined by my good friend Mickey. How are you doing, mate?
I'm fantastic, thank you. A bit bored because of the international week, but never mind.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the international break, and every single Liverpool fan, including myself, hates the international break, and we just want the Reds back in football. So, in today's podcast, we're going to be firstly talking about news in brief, and everything to do with the club in the last week or so. We're also going to be talking about the season that has had so far. Obviously, Liverpool top of the league, if you didn't know. But yeah, we'll be talking about the season so far. We'll be talking about on who our player of the month is. That's going to be a hell of a hard decision. But yeah, I think we already know who our player of the months are. And the main topic of the video, well, the podcast really, is Virgil van Dijk Liverpool's best ever defender? So we will be talking about all these things in the podcast. So, news in brief, Mickey. Transfer window is finally shut in all of Europe. LFC made 50 million, well, over 50 million in profit. This can only be a good thing, can't it?
Oh, to be honest, I think the club have been very clever. Do you know what I mean? But there was concerns by me before the start that we haven't signed anybody, but 4 games in, and I'm starting to feel a bit more. I now see what Klopp was on about. The boys look hungrier, they look better, they look stronger, and I'm expecting big things from them this year. But going on to the point, it not just have they made a profit in the transfer window, they've actually saved a fortune in wages. And to me, it's just a clear indication of a big clear up ready for some big moves.
Yeah, obviously, the rumours are for next season Liverpool are going to go big. But like you said, Liverpool have cleared up wages. Reportedly, it's around, I think, 1 million we were talking about in wages. So that's obviously a big improvement for Liverpool, and someone is coming in. Maybe Mbappe 2020, maybe. What's your thoughts on Mbappe?
Well, obviously, if we get Mbappe, every single Red should be happy. Me personally, I don't think that's going to happen. I do think he's going to stay at Paris, but you never know in football. Strange things happened. We're now up there with the big boys. We're being talked about in the same class as Real Madrid and Barcelona. We're no longer the feeder club to Barcelona as we've been known in the past. So if you think about the amount of players that we sold to them to Real Madrid over the past, we've helped their success along the way. Now it's time for us to get our own success and keep these players and hopefully steal players from them, from their grasp.
Yeah, exactly. I 100% agree with it. We're no longer Barcelona or anyone's stomping ground. We are probably the where everyone wants to finish their career at the minute. So, keeping in with the news in brief, Bobby Duncan. Obviously, the whole situation got a bit bad last week, but he has joined Florentina for 2 million euros, I think it is, or £2 million. He also has a 20% sell-on clause, which is good for Liverpool, and maybe we can get a profit out of that going forward. But I wanted to get your thoughts on the whole Bobby Duncan situation and what your thoughts were on practically the whole situation to begin with.
Well, it's a move orchestrated for money.
Yeah.
I believe that he fell out with Man City over money, hence why the move to Liverpool happened. where for him to say that he needs first team football as the excuse, and then he joins Fiorentina, it baffles me. Now, if he'd have gone ahead and joined a Wigan or somebody in the Championship or a lower Premier League club, but you can look at Solanke, he's not even first choice at Bournemouth. So,
Yeah, that is true.
they're hiding behind, we want money. And it's come out today about the tax system in Italy, where only the first 50% of your wages is taxed. So there's an awful lot in that as well. To me, greedy agents have got into his head and told him, look, let's move here because you can get more money. It wouldn't surprise me to find him moving on next summer to somewhere else, but that wouldn't bother me because we get the 20% add-on clause. So, fantastic bit of business from Marco. It was evident after he accused Liverpool of bullying him that he weren't going to be there much longer, and I think Liverpool did the right thing, got rid. I think we've got better players, even though he's injured, in Paul Galazzo anyway. It is a shame because he is Steven Gerrard's cousin and he is a local lad, but at the end of the day, we had the same problem with Sterling. What we don't want is turn him into a world star, then sell him for 50 million to Man City. That's what we don't want.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. And apparently, one of the things coming out as well this week is during the tour to America in a training session, apparently Bobby Duncan was miles off the likes of Ryan Brewster, which Brewster is rumoured to be getting game time this season and is well up there within the first team. And if he wanted first team football at Liverpool, then it did not look good for him. And I do agree that it is probably a money grab, and that the agent was just no agent, in my opinion, should be publicizing everything that goes on with your player. But yeah, that's just a whole nother conversation about it. Moving on, Ryan Kent has left Liverpool after I think 16 years at the club. Or it could even be longer than that. He has joined Steven Gerrard's Rangers for we believe that it's £7 million, but there's different stories with it. I've heard that it could be 7 million with a 1 million bonus. Some people have heard other things, but we do know there is another sell-on clause in Ryan Kent's contract. So yet again, Liverpool putting sell-on clauses in people's contracts, which in total, Mickey, is only a good thing for Liverpool, isn't it?
Well, it's a wise move. It means we've taught our lesson of the past. There's a young lad, Suso, playing at AC Milan, who's being touted as having a 60-70 million pound move very, very soon. Well, the last couple of transfer windows it's been talked about. It's not going to be long before that happens. And if we'd have put a sell-on clause then, or a buyback clause, then it would have been a lot better. I think Liverpool have, we all know about FSG. When they first come in, that they made a lot of mistakes. It turned people against them. People very questioned, even those that were with him were still very, what's going on here, rather the same as Gillett and Hicks. But they soon absorbed all the criticism. They took it on board and they changed and they progressed, and the club has benefited from them learning from their mistakes, because they may not be new to sport, but they're new to football. So what they've done is they've combined all their knowledge of sport and learnt from the mistakes in football, and it's created a monster at the moment. And I'm going to go out on a whim here and say we probably are the best run club in the world at the moment.
Yeah, I don't even think that's a wild assumption. I think that is probably the truth. Liverpool getting, I think, well, even like this season, getting over 50 million in profit. Getting, I think Liverpool like the first club to record, I think 100 million in profit completely. So you're not wrong with it. I think Liverpool are in a very good position and are probably the best run club in world football. right now, and probably in the world of sport, probably one of the best as well. So, yeah, I think that's a very good shout out for there. Moving on, Dejan Lovren has confirmed, I think, to Croatian TV or Croatian media that he wanted to leave Liverpool this season. He come out and said that Klopp spoke to him about his decisions and said that he needed him and he wanted him at the club, and said that he was a world-class centre-back and he needs him at this club. So Dejan Lovren did turn down the likes of Roma and other Italian clubs to stay at Liverpool. And, you know, Mickey, he is a good centre-back on his day, but, you know, just having him in the squad can only be a good thing, really, can't it?
Well, the best thing about having him in the squad is, one, he's a really good character in the dressing room, and you hear that a lot. He's got a close affinity to Mo Salah, so him and Mo Salah hang around a lot. So I think Klopp is all about the harmony in the dressing room. He knows that needs to be right before he gets him on the pitch.
Yeah.
Which can only benefit the club. But for me, he's our fourth choice centre back, and he isn't a bad choice, is he? He's not the best to me. He's not the best centre back in the world. There's better centre backs, but as a fourth choice, he's probably the best fourth choice centre back in any club.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, we've got no problems. I'm looking at our defence and I'm thinking we're well covered here. The only place we're not well covered is a backup left back, which may be addressed. I'm hoping will be addressed. But then again, do you want somebody to replace Robbo? I think Robbo's been great. The only way you're going to get a good backup is a decent kid. So do we look to the youth team there again? I don't know. Klopp will have the answers. I don't, but yeah, I really do think, I'll reiterate the fact, as a fourth choice centre back, he's the best fourth choice centre back in the Premier League. So
yeah, I totally agree with that. I think we have the best centre back selection probably in world football. Really, I think that there isn't much better than Liverpool centre backs. Going with the left back thing that you said, I think maybe Adam Lewis or what's his name, Ross Jocelyn or whatever his name is, that got injured against Sevilla. He had a very good preseason, and I think that there are options there. But like you said, I don't think anyone's removing Robbo from that side because he is just brilliant. But yeah, I think all the defense is brilliant, whoever you pick in there. But moving on, seven of Liverpool's players have been nominated for the FIFA Pro 11 side. That's practically the best 11 for the last season. The players in mention are Alisson Becker, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Andy Robbo, Virgil van Dijk, Bobby Firmino, Mohamed Salah, and Sadio Mane. So no Liverpool midfielders in the nominees as well. So what's your thoughts, Mickey, on there not being any Liverpool midfielders in the nominees?
Well, first of all, let me congratulate the boys that have been nominated. It's well deserved. They have played extremely well. People may say Man City pipped us the title, but it was by 1 point. It was a very close run thing. We are clearly on the way up to being, if not one of being the best team in the world, and that's soon to be tested in December, by the way. But anyway, that's just a little joke there. But anyway, going forward, I think the reason our midfielders are not chosen is because our midfielders are chosen by Klopp for our style of play, and they're not exactly up there with the likes, you know, of the Fakirs and all that. They're not pretty on the eye. They just do a job, and their job is and they do that job amazingly well, and that's what helps us with our whole system. but because it's not easy on the eye, that they're never going to get the recognition for it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that our midfielders are there to do a job, and other people do not find that attractive, like the people that are nominated, but they do the job for us. But yeah, I do agree with that. And I also want to say congratulations to the players nominated, and yeah, we are literally, in my opinion, I think we are right now the pound for pound best team in the world. I don't think anyone can dispute that. But yeah, that is the news in brief. Not really a lot of news at the minute. We're just really concentrated on the season, which has been going fantastically. And now we're going to be talking about the season, how the season has gone so far. So, Mickey, in your opinion, Liverpool have just been boss, haven't they, really?
Well, 4 wins from 4. I think it's 12 goals, 3 conceded, although it should be 2. I'll get onto that later on. Having a goalkeeper injury, which may have affected us. Not having our players back till really late in pre-season may have affected us, but it didn't. You know, the pre-season friendlies were in my opinion awful, and we looked really shaky. The fact we never really brought anybody in had people questioning, including me. What's going on, what's happening. But 4 games in, them questions have been blown out of the water. Klopp's played a masterstroke. He's made some changes to suit VAR, and those changes may have been the reason in the first couple of games we looked dodgy at the back, but by Burnley on the Saturday evening, we were like a Rolls Royce engine purring. The best performance I've ever seen at Turf Moor in all the times we've been there. I know we've beat Burnley before, but every game that we beat Burnley, they gave us a game, and it was hard fought, and we've been lucky in some of them, and they've been unlucky. But there was no doubting this 3-0 flattered them, because it should have been more. We controlled the game from the first minute all the way to the last minute. And obviously, everyone's going to talk about the spat between Mane and Salah. And in fact, I've got a bit of sympathy for Mane, because we should have had 5 or 6 goals, and maybe we would have done. But you cannot take away Salah's selfishness, or Liverpool's front three will not work. But honestly, we struggled at first with the changes, but that was to be expected due to the people coming back late pre-season, how pre-season went, and then the changes. People were, and you know yourself, kind of people on social media were going, we can't wait for VAR next season. Liverpool are knackered. He's going to do him in. We changed to suit VAR, and it's affecting everybody else, but not us.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you bring up a valid point that, especially in the Burnley game, we looked the most mature, as I think, like you said, we've ever done under Jurgen Klopp. Thinking at the beginning of the season, though, I think you're right with that as well. That I think the first 2 games, I think against Norwich and Chelsea in the Super Cup, I think that them 2 games, I think we've seen a little bit of where maybe that they were struggling a bit with that new defensive line, and especially in the Chelsea game, where they, for the first, especially the first half, they looked the way better team. They looked more dominant than us, and then that's a big saying. But then, since I think even the Arsenal game, that was the turning point. And I think we looked dominant in the Arsenal game. Obviously, they were just playing a deep line and then counter-attacking, but I think we just dominated the game. And I think the best thing about this Liverpool side is it's not like we waste so far it doesn't even look like we've got out of third gear in any of the games, really. I think that Liverpool can play in third gear and just dominate teams completely. And I'd be scared for other teams to know what we can do when we're in fifth or even sixth gear. Like, I think this is, even though like obviously this side have been with each other for about 18 months now, or even a year, like this Liverpool team now looks more scarier than it ever has done. And I don't know if you people listening, let us know in the comments like what your thoughts are on Liverpool so far this season. But for me, this is the scariest that I've ever seen Liverpool play football. And like you said, in the Burnley game, we looked dominant. I think when we went 1-0 up, there was no sign of Liverpool even breaking that lead or even losing or even drawing. I think Liverpool have dominated the headlines for sure. But we have to move on now to a very hard topic, and it's probably going to be the hardest topic of the podcast. Who was our player of the month? Now, I know in my head, there's about 6 or 7 people. I don't know about you, Mickey, but is that like the same for you? You've got about 6 or 7 people in your mind.
Oh, it's been a tough one, and I've made my decision based on things that made him stood out a little bit more than the others. But any one of 6 or 7 players could have won it for me.
Yeah. So for me, my player of the month goes to Sadio Mane. I think he's been brilliant from the get-go. He obviously scored 2 goals in the Super Cup. He's obviously scored against Burnley as well. So from that alone, he's just been brilliant. And especially the short time since he's come back from the international break and then coming back into the team, he's just been brilliant and left off where he started from last season. So, who was your player of the month?
It's Joel Matip, and
Okay.
simply because he started the season as not number 1 again, which was really strange for Liverpool fans to think, because towards the end of the season, him and Van Dijk looked better, started to look like the partnership that was the future. He tried the old Gomez and Van Dijk, and to me personally, I felt it looked a little bit imbalanced, whereas the start of last year it looked perfect. I don't know what was wrong. Matip's came back in, didn't sulk, didn't moan. He's came back in and like a duck to water. I think he's changed the fortunes. He suits this higher line better than Gomez, and he's coming up with goals. He's coming up with goal threat. I think he's been better than Van Dijk so far this season, and that is quite a feat. Although Van Dijk seemed to be back to his best against Burnley, which is great, I think we've got a fantastic partnership growing there between Matip and Van Dijk, and I think it's going to be pretty tough for Joe Gomez to break into that this season. But I just think Joel Matip has not put a foot wrong since he's come back into the side, and he was an important part of how we beat Arsenal, because everything starts at the back. So to me, he has been, and for the reason I've just give, that's why he stands out a little bit more. Yes, Salah scored some amazing goals, an amazing game against Arsenal. Sadio Mane has been amazing. He's come back. It's like he's never been gone. Bang, bang, bang. Bobby Firmino, selfless, hardworking. Fabinho's been by far probably one of the best defensive midfielders going. He's up there with Kante as one of the best in the world, and he's there, and he shepherds just in front of the back four beautifully, allowing the two fullbacks to bomb forward. But Joel Matip, he's just stood out a little bit more for me, and the goal he scored was at an important time as well, and I just feel he was an important part of that clean sheet against Burnley. Him and Van Dijk were amazing together. It was hard to say who was better on the day because they both played amazingly well. And Joel Matip, last season we all thought he was going. We all thought, well, you're not going to get back in the side. Gomez breaks his legs. We're all worried about Matip. He had a dodgy start, but he grew into it, and he's one of the reasons why we won the European Cup in the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's got to get them plaudits, but so far the first he's not played all 4 games, but to me in the first 4 games, when he came in, he made a difference to the team, and that's the reason I'm giving it to him.
Yeah, I think you've pretty much nailed the nail on the head for Joel Matip being nominated. If it wasn't for Marnie, for me, it probably would be Joel Matip. I think you've brought up brilliant arguments for him being Player of the Month. He was for me Man of the Match in the Super Cup at least. And I think it's about time people give Joel Matip the credit he deserves, really. But I'm going to ask a question. We're going to give a second and a third place for Player of the Month. We're going to give a podium then, if you want. So for me, it's Sadio Mane at top. For you, it's Joel Matip. Who would be your second and third choice? It's probably the most impossible question I could probably ask you.
So I'm going to give second choice because it's quite easy to give it to the forward players because they've been brilliant. But I'm going to give it to Adrian, and it's an off the cuff thing. He's come in. He's been training with a third division Spanish side, so he's not fit. He's come in to be our number 2 because we sold Mignolet. So they obviously thought, well, he doesn't need to be fit yet. We're getting fit over the next couple of weeks. And then Alisson has that injury and he has to come on. Yes, okay, Norwich scored against him. Yeah, and he made that mistake against Southampton, but he learnt from it and he looked great against Burnley. And and it's simply because he won us the Super Cup. Adrian, as Klopp says, so to me, he's number 2 because I've been impressed because we've had goalkeepers in the past come into our team and crumble under the pressure, and he's thrived under the pressure. He's got stronger, not weaker, and for that reason, he's my number 2.
Yeah, you're even putting question marks in my head now. That was a very good argument for Adrian. Who am I going to give my number 2 for? I think I'm going to give my number 2 to Fabinho. I think he has been he has proved to be the best defensive midfielder in the league, in my opinion. Started the season off. He's played all 4 games. Sorry, in the league, I think so far. He's just been brilliant. He's literally become the best, probably the best defensive midfielder since maybe Mascherano. But that can be a whole another topic we could be talking about. But he, for me, as like his interceptions and that is just outrageous. He, for me, is better than any defensive in the league or even in world football at the minute, because he is brilliant. Like I said, his interception's been brilliant. His passing range has been brilliant. That Burnley game, he was just immense, in my opinion. So taking all them into consideration, he, for me, is my number 2 player of the month. So who is your number 3rd?
So this is where it starts to get difficult for me because I've gave it to 2 defensive players, and then I would have wanted it to give it to Fabinho because I agree with you, he's been immense. But then I'm saying that our defense is better than our forward line, which isn't true. They're on par. We scored 12 goals, and that's not impressive. And I'm going for Mo Salah because I think he's got his swagger back. I know last season he still scored and he still ended up top scorer, but he seemed to have lost his swagger that he had from the season before. And in that Arsenal game, when he beat David Luiz and then went in and he killed that goal in, I was like, whoa, you are back.
Yeah.
And And he had a good game against Burnley. I know that everyone's going to go on, he didn't pass, and I see that a lot on social media. Don't pass, but if strikers aren't selfish, they don't score. All strikers are selfish. Virgil Van Dijk was always shouted at for not passing to other players in the Man United team, but he always ended up with 35 goals.
Yeah,
that's true. Know what I mean? And they ended up with titles. Yeah. Don't worry about it. These things happen. The only front player out of a front three that passes when they've got a goal chance is Firmino. Yeah. So I've seen Mane take shots when Salah and Bobby are in. So it doesn't make a difference, no. But for me, simply because I feel that Salah looks happy, he feels happy, he's dancing around that field again. Fullbacks are struggling against him, where last season they did him tight because they knew what he did the season before, and they were over him, and he was struggling a little bit, and you could see it, but he was still getting the goals. But you could see that they'd marked him. They're doing the same this year, but he's a year wiser, and he's letting them knock him about. He looks stronger. He's holding them off better. He's turning them. Boom, he's going through them. But honestly, they try to be physical with him at Burnley, and they just couldn't do it. Where last season people were being physical with him, and he was struggling a little bit. So that's a sign of a great player. Look at, wow, these people have stepped the game up this season. It's my turn. And that's how Messi and Ronaldo have stayed relevant even at their age, because every year they look at where they can get better, and Salah's doing the same thing, and that's a sign of a world-class player. And simply because his swagger's back, I'm putting him at number 3.
Yeah, I feel it. I think you could put anyone in our top 3 that's been playing well. But yeah, I agree with you that his swagger is back. I think he didn't score. Which game didn't he score in? He didn't score in the Burnley game.
Burnley.
Yeah, but he still looked like a goal scoring threat, and whenever he gets on the ball so far this season, he has looked like he's just going to turn and shoot, and he's going to just put that ball in the back of the net. And like you said, that Arsenal goal that he went past David Luiz, that was the sign of Mo Salah back on fire. But for my third player, or the bronze position, I'm going to go with Bobby Firmino. I think you mentioned him just now, but for me, Bobby Firmino deserves to be third. He is, like you said, the one that isn't selfish. He's the one that always passes the ball, always looks for the connection from defense to attack. He is the perfect false 9. He is just brilliant. And the key games, if you look back at when he come on in the Super Cup, and then even the Burnley game, you could just see, like, if Bobby Firmino wasn't in our system, we would struggle, and that was evident in the Super Cup. But when he came on, he was brilliant. Obviously assisted twice for Sadio Mane. That cheeky flick up that he did against Halabas, I think it was, that was just, it was like he was playing on FIFA, the new Volta mode, playing just brilliant skills and all like that. He's just brilliant. Bobby Firmino is just brilliant. I can't put any more words to that. He is brilliant, and he is my number 3. So that is our player of the month. If you do, well, tell us your top 3 for player of the month in the comment section below. But moving on to our main topic of the podcast. Yes, Ian, this one's going to be a tough question. We like asking tough questions on this podcast, I think. The main topic is Virgil van Dijk, Liverpool's best ever defender. Now, we said defender. We're not including right back or left back, which is basically full backs. We're just including centre backs in this. So, Nikki, is Virgil van Dijk the the best Liverpool defender ever?
You know, we spoke about this before the podcast. It's a pretty tough one because we've had some fantastic central defenders.
Yeah. It's a very tough question.
But yes, but only on the fact that this is currently, and I know we ain't won the Premier League, but this is currently, and facts prove this, our best ever side in history. We've just gone a 13-game unbeaten run. We're unbeaten at Anfield. Is it for coming on to 3 years?
Yeah, it's coming up 3 years.
Yeah, we've scored 97 points in a league title. So I know we come second, but that's the most points we've ever got in the season. In fact, only Man City have ever scored more in their history, and that was only the season before. So
yeah,
there's only 2 seasons where that would never have won the Premier League. When he came into the club, changed the dynamic because we were known as the great attacking side that leaked goals and we'd win 4-3. He's come in, he's upped Matip's game, he's upped Gomez's game, he's allowed us to have attacking fullbacks because of how he plays. The adding of Fabinho's helped him because Fabinho Marshall's in front of him now. He's sort of like the ultimate weapon that's upgraded the rest of the squad. And similar thing to Alisson. Alisson's come in and he's training with these other goalkeepers. These other goalkeepers are getting better because of him. There's a lot of things happened around Van Dijk which have helped him. But on the fact that Liverpool are the best they've ever been, I'm going to go yes, he is. And only based on that fact. But it's a very, very close margin. It's a millimetre. It's a millimetre above my second choice. So
yeah, I think you've pretty much put the nail on the head again. For me, he's just brilliant. He's the best ever defender I think I've ever watched or even seen in my lifetime. And I've only seen like world-class centre backs like Jamie Carragher and Sami Hyypiä and others like that. But for me, he is miles ahead of the rest in the world right now. He is the best centre back in the world. I think he should win the Ballon d'Or. He deserves it, in my opinion. Like you said, he's made the team better since coming into the side from Southampton. And then the likes of Alisson has made him better. Fabinho's made him better. Even his partners in Joel Matip and Joe Gomez has made him better. So on that, and plus the goal scoring, I think he scored, I think it was like 4 or 5 last season. And, he just looks a threat every time he goes into the box for a corner or even against people in the box or around the area. And also we have to take into consideration he didn't get dribbled past in the entirety of last season, both in the Premier League and the Champions League. And he's only been dribbled past, I think, once by Nicolas Pepe, which, it's just an amazing record to have. Like, he's played at the likes of Messi, Ronaldo, Mbappe, all these quick, skillful players, and he has not got dribbled past. So, in my opinion, I think Virgil van Dijk is the best centre-back, best defender we've ever had at the club. But we are going to have a top 5. So, I don't think we're going to put these in order. I don't think that would be fair. But I think number 1 is Virgil van Dijk for both of us. Who is your second? Because I know you were very torn on this between first and your second.
Yeah. Before I go on to that, I just want one last thing on Van Dijk is when he did get dribbled past, our friends from Manchester City, our friends from Manchester United, our friends from Arsenal and Spurs laughed and thought, oh, that, you know, he's been, and then I just put one word thing on, yeah, once in 2 years is like
Yes.
pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is pretty funny. And then if you look at the sequence when he dribbled past him, he didn't do anything.
No, because Van Dijk recovered and took it off him.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's just, so yeah, I know that was a bit off topic for number two, but I had to say that because, like, you know, to me, they were celebrating that he got dribbled past, and then we're going, look, he ain't as good as you think he is. I'm thinking, well, I just think, wow, it was eventually going to happen anyway because there's good forwards out there.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to laugh, but you know, if that's all they can bash us on, then so be it. That's great, isn't it?
Just keep
But
it coming.
but anyway, moving on. Definitely my number two choice, and he to me he nearly got my number one choice, and I grew up watching him a lot. Alan Hansen, fantastic, not only a fantastic defender but a fantastic leader, and he won the trophies to go with it. So you know what I mean, and to me, I believe that when he retired and I got offered the Liverpool job, if he'd have took it instead of Graham Souness, we wouldn't be talking about a 30-year Man United dominance under Ferguson. I don't think. I think Liverpool would have been a lot closer in the earlier 90s and would have made it a bit more fairer, if you know what I mean. But that's never to be proven because it never happened. But honestly, the guy could do everything. He could score goals. He could dribble past players. He could pass from the back. He was the ultimate defender, and you know, he's one of the few old footballers I believe could cope with modern football.
Yeah. You mentioned a very good point there. And for my number two, I'm gonna say the exact same as you. I think Alan Hansen, he was a leader, he was a winner, and like you said, maybe if he did take the job, then things could have been a lot different in the history of Liverpool in the 90s. But yeah, what a leader and what a player, you know, putting his body on the line practically every time he put on a red shirt, realistically. So that is my number two. I've copied Mickey a bit there, but you know, Alan Hansen is a Liverpool legend and will always be a Liverpool legend. But my number three, I'm gonna go for Jamie Carragher. You know, he was the best centre back apart from Virgil Van Dijk for me growing up as a Liverpool player, a Liverpool fan. Sorry, yeah, like I just said about Alan Hansen, put his body on the line for Liverpool. If you look back at the Champions League final when he was just getting cramp through extra time and he just got back up and he was just like nothing and just carried on and was like a true warrior in that game. But you know, just Jamie Carragher is the heart of Liverpool. If you look at back in the 2000s now, obviously he won the treble in 2001 or 2002. You know, playing alongside the likes of Sami Hyypiä and Daniel Agger back then, didn't, like we know, win the league or anything like that. But his performances for Liverpool, for me, he was just superb and honestly put his body on the line and his heart and his soul into the club. And, you know, he, for me, is my third choice. But who is your third choice, Mickey?
My third choice has to be Sami Hyypiä. So we paid £2.5 million for him. Now, okay, it was back then, but 2.5 was still low then. People were paying 10, 15 million for defenders. And I remember the first 10 games and every pundit, Andy Gray, they're all going, Liverpool have found a right gem here. And he was instrumental in 2005. The volley he scored against Juventus in the quarterfinal. Wow. You know, the guy scored goals. He was our captain. He led from the back. We were pretty solid when him and Honcho had a great partnership under Julio, which was instrumental in the treble season. And because Carragher played right back when we won the treble. So, and then obviously, I believe that he brought Carragher's game on when Carragher got moved to the middle by Rafa. To be fair to Hippier, you know, towards the end of his career, injury took its toll on him. He was struggling to get into the side, but he's one of the few people I would welcome back to Liverpool as a coach. I 100% believe that he was one of the steals of the century at 2.5 million. Great in the air, great at his feet. Like I said, he was our captain for a while, and rightly so. Was our captain. I know Gerrard took it off him in the end, but that was just natural progression. Gerrard was getting better, becoming more influential. He was loud in the dressing room, but he always had Hippier. If you read Gerrard's books and whatever, he's always had Hippier in the background backing him, and you know what I mean. He was there, one of them people, and to me, he's an all-time great at Liverpool, but was unfortunately played the same as Gerrard at the time when Liverpool weren't being run right off the pitch, which indeed, it's a travesty that him and Gerrard never won a Premier League.
Yeah.
They both deserved it. They're both good enough to do it.
I
believe Hippier was better than the two they had at Man United.
Yeah. Well, with Ferdinand and Vidic.
Yeah, he was better than both of them. He just played in the right. They were lucky enough to play in a great team that won things. You know what I mean? The people in midfield and the forward people winning the games.
Yeah, no, I agree with you with Sami Hippier. You know, it would have been nice because I think he left after the 2008-2009 season where we just missed out to Manchester United. I think that was by like 4 points. But yeah, Sami Hippier is a great shout. To be honest with you, he was my number four, but like now you've took that off me, so I've got to think of someone else. So thank you for that. I'm going to go out on a limb for my fourth choice then, and I'm going to say Daniel Agger. Now, do I think he's up there with the best? Probably not, but in my time of growing up at Liverpool, Daniel Agger with his long shots was like the thing I wanted to do as a kid, and I wanted to be like Daniel Agger. I just loved, like he was a cult hero at Liverpool, and you know his long shots, like I just said, was superb. I think he scored that outrageous one against Blackburn in that 2008-2009 season, and I think he scored another long range one somewhere else. I think Carragher and, like you said, Hippier made him better because I think in that season as well, we would play Carragher right back and then play Hippier and Agger at centre back. But you know, just even if Agger was playing with Hippier or Carragher, I think he just brought another dimension in pretty much ways where we see Virgil Van Dijk or even Joel Matip progressing forward as we do now, just progression up the pitch and just seeing what he can do with the ball. And, you know, centre-backs with goals in their game is just a added level to a centre-back. So, yeah, for me, my fourth choice is Daniel Agger. Who is yours?
Well, it's been a pretty tough list to go through, but my next one is going to be Mark Lawrenson because he was the partner to Alan Hansen and one of the reasons why Liverpool was so successful. They played well together, they complemented each other, but Mark Lawrenson was very much underrated. But to me, he was a class act. And he turned out to be one of the better pundits as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he speaks the truth, doesn't he, really? And I think that any pundit, to be fair, and I know some people hate Liverpool pundits, but when you look at it on TV, Liverpool pundits are probably the best pundits because
apart
we
from
like.
Owen,
Yes, Michael Owen get in the bin.
the worst pundit in TV ever.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned this on the podcast, but like Michael Owen is having a war with Alan Shearer at the minute. So yeah, we won't talk about that. But
We
yeah,
can talk
Michael.
about that after this if you want. It's
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll talk about Michael Owen at the end. Yeah, we'll just have a 5-minute conversation about Michael Owen. But yeah, I think you're right with that. I think he was very underrated. I think you could put any Liverpool centre back that was playing in the 80s or not in the 90s, sorry, so 70s, 80s. In the dominant era for Liverpool. But yeah, oof, I have absolutely no idea who to put at fifth. There's so many to choose from. Jerry, I'm leaning towards Prince Sammy Hippier at my number 5, just to have him in the list because he was so good. And like you said, the Juventus strike that he did, that was just a memory that will never leave. I don't think any Liverpool fan, if you were watching or even there at the game back then. So yeah, I'm gonna put Sammy Hippier at fifth for me anyway, because he was like you mentioned earlier on, he was a true leader at Liverpool and probably at the game of Carragher. But yeah, I was sad when he left, but he just left as a Liverpool legend, and rightfully so. So, who is your fifth and final pick for the list?
so this was a tough one because obviously there's been some great defenders throughout the years, but they were a bit before my time. I've heard like Ron Yates, Emily News, and people didn't realise Emily News did play as centre back. So before anyone shouts at me, he did play as a centre back. But for me, you've got to go with players that you've seen and been around, and you know what I mean, been a part of. And it's a close one. I'm going to mention two names. It's between Martin Skirtle and
Yeah.
Stefan Honcho.
Ooh.
Now, I nearly put Neil Ruddock in there, and I'll tell you why. Neil Ruddock wasn't a great defender, wasn't one of the best in the world, but to me, he entertained me on the pitch. And the fact he kept putting Cantona's collar down used to make me laugh. So Neil Ruddock was nearly in there as well, but obviously he's not because of the fact that he wasn't part of a great defence. Let's be honest, he wasn't one of the best defenders, but for that reason. But to me, I'm giving it to Stefan Honcho because I just felt his partnership with Hippier was amazing, and it was an integral part of the treble winning side. We've got to go back to that because that's an important part of our history. Is that treble winning season was a great season. We even had a good season in the league that year. So
yeah,
I've got to give it to Honcho, and I just felt Honcho and Hippier were a great partnership. Skirtle just misses out because he was prone to those what I call Vidic mess ups. When somebody fast at him, he just couldn't cope.
Yeah. And the other thing with Martin Skirtle as well, you'd be mostly guaranteed for him to score an own goal in every season.
When was the season where he scored? Was that under Rodgers where he scored a few goals?
He scored 6 own goals in 13-14.
I mean, wasn't there a one where he actually scored goals for Liverpool and it was quite impressive?
Yeah, it was 13-14 as well. I think he scored 6 own goals, and I think he scored 5 proper goals.
Right, okay. So 11 goals ain't bad, you know what I
mean? Yeah, for a centre back, that's pretty good.
Carragher was master at scoring own goals as well, if you remember.
Yeah, that is true.
Scored one in a cup final, I remember.
He only scored 5 goals for Liverpool, but if you were including own goals, then he was he was a centre forward in the centre back position.
Yeah, for the opposition.
Yeah.
I think his old Everton hat come on then, didn't it? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
no, but to me, Honcho gets it. I just thought he was a great player. I can't remember how much. I think he was another steal. I'm sure we got him from Blackburn, did we?
I think so.
So he was already Premiership proven. That partnership was at a level. I know he's more famous for the diving hand goalkeeping save against Arsenal in the FA Cup final, but we won't mention that too often, eh? Wink, wink.
No.
So I think he could have played in goal as well. So there you go. This was a tough list, a very tough list, and you've got to go with. There may be better players in Liverpool's past, but like I said, you've got to go with players you've seen, haven't you, and you know about.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I agree with that. I think like some people might argue with my thought of Daniel Agger being in the top five, but if we were to go based on history, then our top five would probably be different. But it's like you said, it's like on players we've actually seen and actually watched with our own eyes. But yeah, let us know in the comments section who you'd have in your top five. This has been hard for me and Mickey to pick, but yeah, it's probably going to be even harder for people watching or even listening to this. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this week's podcast.
What about
I
the
just
Owen
want.
thing? Do you want to pass it?
Oh yeah, I forgot about the Michael Owen thing. We will talk about the Michael Owen thing. What an absolute idiot Michael Owen is. Let's be honest. Ever since the Manchester United move, Michael Owen can get in the bin. But yeah, obviously, if you didn't know, Michael Owen, this should have really been in the news in brief, but we're going to add it now. Michael Owen and Alan Shearer have had a bit of a mix of words on Twitter due to Michael Owen's new book. I advise everyone not to buy Michael Owen's book because, like I said, he can get in the bin. But yeah, what's your thoughts on the Michael Owen situation?
So I'm not so hard on him, to be honest. I think Liverpool sold him. When we had the buyback, we refused to buy him back. So
Yeah.
I felt a bit sorry for him for that. And then he looked to the chance of grabbing a trophy, went to Old Trafford. Big mistake. I think he realises that now. He'd never, ever, ever. By the way, I think he's the worst pundit in TV. He's so boring.
I don't even think that's like a mad claim. He is boring.
Yeah. I mean, the only time I've ever seen somebody worse was that time John Barnes fronted Channel 5 football. That was the only time anybody did worse than him. But John Barnes is a lot better now. But that's the only thing I could point back to it. I think he just needs some lessons in how to act, because being a presenter, you need to act. You need to be, alive. I think Michael Owen's just being Michael Owen. Oh, hello. But I don't hate him as much. I think he's a club legend. I think he was poorly treated. That's due to the fact I think that Rafa Benitez didn't fancy him, and he weren't Rafa Benitez sort of striker. Which, come out and say, Rafa, he's not my sort of striker, I'll sell him. I feel we only got 8 million for him for Real Madrid, and I just thought at the time, wow, we really sold Michael Owen for 8 million. What is going on? I know prices weren't like they are now, but £20 million easy could have got for him, easy. I just think Liverpool did stuff on me a little bit, and he made a mistake. But the thing is, he always talks up. I know he's boring, whatever. Let's forget that for a minute. On TV, he always talks up Liverpool and talks down Man United. He's played at both, yeah. And he's an ambassador for Liverpool now. I think he always loved Liverpool. He felt a bit hard done by. And maybe there was a bit of spite when he joined Man United, but I think he realised it soon that, oh, I've made a mistake here.
Yeah, I now thinking about it, yeah, I've been a bit harsh on Michael Owen, but by saying he needs to get in the bin. It was because obviously he did join Manchester United, but prime Ballon d'Or. Well, let's be honest, Michael Owen is the last Liverpool player to win the Ballon d'Or until Virgil van Dijk does this year, hopefully, fingers crossed. But yeah, Michael Owen is the last Liverpool player to win the Ballon d'Or, and I can't remember how old he was. Was he 21 or 22?
I think he was younger.
Yeah, something like that.
I think he was younger, and I think he won the Ballon d'Or for what he did for England rather than what he did for Liverpool, personally.
Yeah. Then we always have to remember that FA Cup final against Arsenal.
Arsenal without him, there's no FA Cup final win. It's simple fact.
Yeah, that's simple as that. And yeah, he has come out and said that Liverpool was his destination when he wanted to leave Real Madrid. It's come out and said that Real Madrid president, I can't think of his first name, Perez, basically said to him, Newcastle have come in with an offer of £16 million. You can go there for that, or you can stay here. And he said, I want to go to Liverpool, and Liverpool didn't match Newcastle's bid. Now, the other thing with what happened on Twitter, Michael Owen has revealed, if you want, that Alan Shearer almost signed for Liverpool due to Sir Bobby Robson benching him. So, could you imagine Alan Shearer at Liverpool?
Well, when I heard this over the last week, I actually remember the Sunday Mirror, when he got benched, claiming that he's on the verge of joining Liverpool. And I remember it, and everyone laughed at it. Everyone thought, Shearer will never leave Newcastle. You know what I mean? He's not bothered about the glory. He's bothered about playing for Newcastle. This is, you know what I mean? He's won the Premier League with Blackburn. He doesn't need to do anything else. He wants to make Newcastle successful. And I remember it was laughed at and ridiculed. But obviously, looking back now, there's some kind of truth in it. Do you know what I mean? And I do think footballers, when they do call other footballers out about loyalty, need to make sure that their closet is clean.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, bearing in mind, I've never been an advocate of publishing a book and then naming other players or naming things that happen in dressing rooms. I think that's wrong. Yeah, so Owen is wrong in that, and it's pissed Shearer off. But then Shearer could have just gone, all right, leave it. Then Shearer come out with all this, and Shearer's got egg on his face. Do you know what I mean? Because to Newcastle fans, he was a god. Now it's been proven that he was orchestrating a move to Liverpool. Yeah. Why it never materialised, I don't know. Yeah. But I remember it being a real thing at the time. I remember clear as day. But I didn't until it dawned on me. And people laughed at the Mirror correspondent about it. But it's got an element of truth. Owen was there. He was in the dressing room.
Yeah. So it's just crazy, isn't it, that it's come out now that he could have joined Liverpool, and it's well, it adds the new question is, why didn't he go to Liverpool, and why didn't it happen? So,
well, I think it had something to do with, I think Bobby Robson started to play him again, didn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been amazing if he joined Liverpool, because to me, Alan Shearer was one of the best strikers ever. So, and I'm talking world football.
Could you imagine Stevie G filling in Alan Shearer with just balls, constant, accurate balls, that would just be, that would be unthinkable.
Well, Shearer was the master of all goals. Now, we look at it now. We look at like Salah's the master of the dinking, ding, 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 bump, and curling it in. Firmino's the master of the no look, the sublime, the beautiful long range shots. And Mane's just there. He's the poacher. He can cut in, shoot, curl. Shearer could do all of that. Yeah. All of it. He had a volley and a half. He had a head. Boom. Could bang him in. He could do everything. He was the complete striker. And
this is why he's the Premier League top goal scorer.
But imagine, because he did turn down, man. You know, imagine if he played in a good side. He did play in a good side and they won the league, and he was top scorer. Yeah,
exactly.
But when he left, he went to Newcastle, who were on the wane and never were the same again. I don't know what happened there, but they were never the same again, and they never had players behind him that were good enough for him. It's a bit like Steven Gerrard at some points in his Liverpool career. The players around him were never good enough.
Yeah.
Or the ones that were didn't last long and left for bigger things. So, and the same thing happened at Newcastle. But honestly, this is a great thing to end the podcast on. Is it's something that could have changed our history for the better.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, and like you said, it is a brilliant way to end the podcast. And, you know, let us know in the comment section below on what your thoughts. Would you have liked Alan Shearer at Liverpool? I think both myself and Mickey would have absolutely loved Alan Shearer at Liverpool. So I think that will wrap up the podcast. Thank you, Mickey, for coming on today.
It's been a pleasure. I love doing these, and just make sure you hit that subscribe and like button and hit the notifications, because the more people we do, the more live shows we can do.
That is true. If we can get to probably 50 subscribers, maybe around Christmas time, then that would be perfect, and then we could hopefully build and build and build. But yeah, like Mickey said, please like the podcast. It will do us we'd be massively appreciated. These will hopefully be a weekly occurrence. We are trying to work on these and trying to bring out the podcasts for you. But yeah, like I just said, please like the podcast, please share it, and subscribe to the Kop Council. We will see you all next week, hopefully. Goodbye.